I'm going to discuss the cybersecurity readiness testing through a simulation through this 1 hour webinar. Okay, let me first, give you a little background on why cybersecurity is really becoming more and more important today. If I talk about digital transformation, which is happening across all these sectors across the world, whether it is oil and gas, manufacturing, telecommunication, banking, everyone is going through a huge shift in the digital usage. The way we do business transaction, the way we do banking, the way we are using mobile commerce applications, the introduction of cloud. I think the whole point of technology is shifting to a more sophisticated way of doing businesses. And nevertheless, the elimination of security cannot be mentioned as a part of this conversation. Security is becoming more and more important today. And what is really happening in cybersecurity is that it is becoming one of the most spoken about topic in the boardrooms, in operational meeting, overall investor discussion on how do you secure the business critical information. From a cybersecurity perspective, I think in the last 25 years there has been a huge change in the way the technology elements across the enterprise have embedded, right from endpoint protection to perimeter level security, including firewalls, IDS, IPS, deployment of sophisticated security operating centers. I think organizations across the world are implementing the solutions to safeguard their data. In this webinar today, I'm just trying to make you think alternative mechanism testing your cyber resilience using this business simulation. Irrespective which sector do you come from, irrespective what products you have implemented from a security standpoint, one of the basic questions which always remain is that the human being is the weakest link to any security system. What it means is that no matter how sophisticated products and security solutions you've deployed, at the end of the day, it's the person who is responsible for ensuring security. So what we thought that we'll try and assemble all the various permutation combinations into this wonderful simulation and try and explain the concept of why cybersecurity is important. And the whole objective of doing this is to sensitize the top management, people who represent business continuity, people who represent project management, people who represent security functions, to appreciate that how cybersecurity is an integral part of the business operations, right? Okay, so a little bit of background on why simulation. Simulation is important because it's very, very interactive, which means it is not a very contemporary way of training the participants. It's about making them unleash their potential, what they have already gathered as an experience, either through their formal classroom trainings or through their work experience, and actually gives them a platform to implement all those thoughts and experiences in making the complete scenario go better as if it was real. Everybody comes with their own experience, their own thought process, and this makes this whole workshop very realistic, which means that nobody can predict what is going to be the outcome of this workshop, because people come from different backgrounds, different experiences, and different skill sets. And the objective in this simulation workshop is to basically showcase the actual essence of a working operations on how it really happens in the day-to-day world, and how would all of the participants would actually perform their roles as if it was a real scenario in their organization, right? Okay, so let's look at what is it. It's a very interesting theme, and I'm sure all of you who had been working on business risk, business continuity management, information security management, they all appreciate the power of reputation. And so this theme today in this webinar is about a bank who's trying to improve its reputation. And for that, they are trying to get world's three most valuable objects into their country and showcase them into some museum, which is basically going to depict how powerful this bank is and how much secure processes do they have so that they can give confidence to people and people can in turn invest into their bank. So that's a very classical theme to build this entire case, right? And the whole objective is to sustain the three world's most precious objects into that particular exhibition so that people understand and they get confidence on that bank that their reputation is really, really strong. Now, while this business case pops up in the next slide, I also want you to know that there is a very interesting group called Oceans 99, which is going to look at various opportunities in stealing those objects. And this is, I think, a very practical scenario in real life also. Irrespective whether you are a bank or you are a telecom company or you are oil and gas or a government organization, everybody is trying to protect their sensitive information from somebody or the else. So I think we all have our own share of Oceans 99 in different formats. It could be a hacker, it could be an individual, it could be a targeted attack, it could be a virus, it could be a malware, it could be anything which is aimed to steal the data or destroy the data or infringe into your information in an unauthorized manner, right? What's the objective of this simulation? As I mentioned in my previous conversation, the first and foremost objective is to highlight the importance of cybersecurity. I've been doing cybersecurity for almost 17 years now, and I've seen that the top management still does not appreciate the investments and budgets which are required for implementing cybersecurity. I think this is a beautiful mechanism to showcase them by involving them in this simulation. That why cybersecurity is important, because you are actually not running them through a PowerPoint slide, you are making them a participant in this workshop so that they actually see and feel the essence of security in each business decision which they take. Another point which I want to highlight here is that you actually get an insight on what are the real threats to my business. I know we all go with the threat matrix to the top management where we mention what are the threat vectors, what are the possible risks, what are the vulnerabilities, what could actually happen. We do an impact analysis. But in this simulation, the top management and the other middle management professionals in your organization, they get an opportunity to actually see and feel that what are the threats and how do these threats change dynamically over a period of time. It also gives a beautiful reflection of what are the different roles and responsibilities which are played by people across the board. A lot of times the top management be a little oblivion of the fact that, well, do I need to do something in cybersecurity? This is a job of an IT guy or a risk guy. But I think this simulation also helps you to uncover a myth about it that cybersecurity is only confined to technology or to business risk. Cybersecurity is very deeply ingrained in the entire enterprise. And what it means is that by participating in this workshop, people can appreciate what are the various different roles and how do these roles actually talk to each other. What are the various responsibilities which each individual or a business function has to play to make their organization more cyber resilient. For all of you who have experience on implementing information security, business continuity management, or have an experience of doing project management, this is again a wonderful platform to implement all that skills and knowledge which you have gained in your experience to actually do a reality check. And since it is a game which all the participants play together, nobody can predict how the next round is going to look like. So the beauty of this simulation is that it is unpredictable. There is no right and wrong. It's a decision, it's a choice which is made by by a group of people in a specific point in time. The choices would change depending on the business environment, depending on the business scenario. And again, it's going to be very real the way we all work in our organizations every day. It also gives a very important reflection on how do you step by step in a methodological way implement cybersecurity. And I'm going to talk more about it in the coming slides. Then we have an IT support person who's responsible for giving technical support to the business stakeholders every now and then. So we have also tried to introduce some of the technical elements so that we can make it more realistic. Then we have a transport manager who is basically going to play the role of a logistics head responsible for all the transportation need for moving the objects from one part to another part. And at the end, you would see various business stakeholders, Amsterdam Museum, Las Vegas, and London Museum. So these are typically the business stakeholders who currently own those business assets which are going to be displayed at Tokyo Museum in the next couple of rounds. So this is in a nutshell how the entire setup of the simulation looks like. So typically we have a combination of close to about 12 to 15 people to play this simulation in a synchronized manner. This typically is run for about 6.5 hours. It's a full day workshop, right? Okay. Now let's move to the round one. What do people actually do in round one? So as a part of this workshop, what typically the instructor would do is hand over the role cards to everybody. If you see in this slide, so all the participants are going to have their role cards, which will give them a definition of what each person actually is responsible to do and what are their core responsibilities from this workshop perspective. And we give them a couple of minutes to read their role cards so that there is an absolute clarity on the roles. In the round one, we asked the team to develop a cybersecurity policy. And please remember, it's a teamwork, which means that it's not only confined to the security manager, it is confined to each and every participant who is playing this workshop. So we're trying to put together a culture where everybody participates in development of the policy. And we've asked some basic question. What is that you want to protect and why do you want to protect? So it's a paper and a pen simulation. There is no use of a laptop, no internet required. All it is going to have a specific risk assessment template which would have what are the threats and what are the vulnerabilities, and against that somebody could actually buy an advice. So for example, you would have certain cards on your table as a business owner that your business is at some risk. So it is your choice whether you want to deploy some control. If you are in a dilemma, you can buy the advice through an external consultant, which was going to be the instructor. You pay some money. We'll be giving some money as a part of this workshop to all the participants. So they have some budget to spend money and to buy the advice. Now, this is again very realistic. What we all see in our organization, when we do a risk assessment, we come up with some high risk, medium risk, then we take it to the top management and they decide, okay, these are the risks which we can ignore, these are some risks which we can outsource, these are the risks which we want to mitigate. So it's the same way we have tried to give a reflection in this game where you do a natural risk assessment, right? Okay, great. Now, after this particular aspect is done, we do a reflection. And why is reflection important? Reflection is important so that the game instructor can actually run you through all the finer aspects of how you actually started this simulation. What are the things which you did well? What are the things which could have been done well? What what did it go correctly? What was something which could have been done in a little different way? And also take a feedback from the participants on what was their thought. So the objective is we will try and capture why did you took that decision, and basis your response, the instructor is going to mention his or her feedback. Few things, what are the key aspects of the cybersecurity policy? What are the important assets which you would like to protect? All these questions, they would look very simple, but when you're actually doing a participation in the simulation, each person will have a different thought. Somebody would try to protect the business asset. Somebody would try to protect a reputation. Somebody would try to protect the person. Each individual will have a different thought. And depending on what you want to protect, your money and your time will change. If you want to protect too many things, obviously you need to spend more money. And if you want to spend more money, the project manager will have a challenge in terms of completing the project. So we have tried to put together a lot of business elements, financial elements, risk elements, security elements parallelly to make it more realistic for everyone. Then we will talk about what are the different threats which the participants discover. There are few threats which will be very commonly visible, which I am sure everybody will document. But there would also be certain threats which would be little finer in print, and somebody who reads the documentation correctly will be able to make it up. Then we will also ask the participants that in policy helping in prioritizing what threats you want to mitigate first or what threats you want to mitigate later. This is again very similar to what we all are used to. We will not mitigate everything in one go. We usually take an approval from the business, from the top management that these are high risk, we would want to mitigate them first, and then once they are done, we go in a very systematic manner. So again, this is something which we will do in this workshop. Then we make sure that everybody understands the difference between what is a risk, what's a threat, what are the vulnerabilities, because most of the people who come from a business background, this is the point where they need to be completely in sync with the workshop. That when a security guy or a business risk guy comes with, oh well, this is the threat, this is the risk, and this is the vulnerability, how do you actually contemplate them into real business words, right? Looking at the situation, which I think is going to be a point in time, the game instruction might also teach you in checking, is the operation which is currently going, is it vulnerable? Is it all secure? Are you sure that all the necessary controls are in place, or you would want to change those controls? This is something which again is a very important part of the reflection, because this is going to give you an opportunity to holistically look at everything and ask yourself as a team that are we in the right direction? Are all the assets secure? Have we deployed the right controls? Is there something which is grossly incorrect? So this is again, as I said, it's an opportunity to reflect. And then before this round closes, the game instructor is going to check with all the team members and what are the improvements which they intend to do in the next round. Please remember that each game is dynamic, each game is different, and the results are all going to be different. And each game, when participants play, irrespective of the experience that you bring on the table, their scenario is going to be different. So the idea is that once this round is closed, it should also have a improvement methodology in the mindset that what the team is going to do in the next round, so that the game becomes more clearer as you go along, right? Okay, let's move to round two now. Once the round two happens, then you start implementing the technical and the process controls. In the first round, it was setting up the risk assessment governance mechanism and setting up the priorities for implementing controls for high risk item and medium risk items. In the round two, you will do a complete overview of what are the things about fixing some specific control around technology, or fixing a control around process, or fixing a control around people. This whole round is going to be around how do you make changes to your infrastructure. And please remember, whatever changes you make in this round, they will only and only be applicable from the next round. So it cannot happen real time. And this is again, we have created sync it in real wins. That only we start commercially implementing that tool in our organization, and it takes some time. And after that, the tool is implemented, we look at whether it is solving the business problem or not. Now, process controls, people control, and technical. So what will happen is that you will start moving the objects from their origin to the destination. And what is the destination? The destination is the Tokyo Museum, where all these objects are going to be exhibited. And while the objects move from point A to point B, there is going to be a certain event place. This workshop simulation absolutely stunning, because as a participant, you don't know which security incident is going to come up. So if you see the cards which are in the front of your screen, when you unfold these cards, there is a specific incident, and that incident necessarily would relate to any process issue, it could relate to your policy, it could relate to your risk assessment. All incidents are going to have a linkage on whatever choices you make as a part of mitigating that risk or solving that particular security incident. So the beauty is that when you start shipping the objects, there are lots of incidents which will come in, complete journey, and they will have a cascade impact on other processes as well, like a typical organization process. Okay, so we really want to do a reflection upon. We would want to see how is the maturity of our processes. Are they still on one, or have improved? Usually they would improve because people are more in the simulation. They understand what are the key business challenges. They also acknowledge what are the different business weaknesses which they did not identify in round one, right? You would need to look at whether the process was being followed. I'm sure all of you would agree with me that when we make processes and they all effectively get uploaded on our or some policy. But the day we start implementing these processes, we have very limited time and opportunity to reflect back into those processes. This simulation will give you a chance to see whatever you documented, did you really follow that? Were you following the change log mechanism process? Were you keeping a security incident log? Were you able to prioritize them? Was somebody keeping a expected people to do? This is a brilliant opportunity to actually see the importance and see the implementation of that. Then things like authorization. We all in security have been talking about need to know access. We should have authorized people accessing the to see that all the information which people were actually accessing within the simulation were everybody authorized. Did they had the right amount of accesses given to them, and was that access approved? So all those things will actually come into picture here. Then we are the object painted. We unfortunately missed them and we still don't know. All those incidents which are coming to us, some of them are true, some of them are untrue. How are we dealing with the untrue information? Are we using our knowledge database? Are we cross-checking with other team members, or we are just sort of blindly following the rules? Are we doing a security awareness campaign on telling people what they should be looking at if they get a phishing email, or what they should be doing if they get a password request email for the same user 10 times in a day? So those practical challenges, will actually form part of this particular round. So depending on the choices which you take, the game leader is going to do this reflection, which I think is going to be the most interesting part of this round. And then also we will look at how do you prioritize the assets. And if you remember, we all have heard about business value. What is the business value of this particular asset? What is the business value of this particular data? Is it going to be crucial for the business operations? All those things will actually come into play in this round. All right. Great. Now let's move to round three. What do we actually want to do in round three? In round three, we'll again look at what are the things which we would want to change. Whether we want to change the processes, whether we want to do some changes in the technology, whether we want to change some people-related aspect. But please remember, in round three, you have worked, and the reason I'm saying this is because you would have spent most of your money on round one and round two. So there is very limited activities which you can do in round three, subject to if you have got substantial amount of time and budget with you. If you do not have that, then you will have to look at how do you smartly play what you currently have. And round three basically talks about a slightly matured set of organizations, which means that round one was setting up a cybersecurity culture, round two was implementing is running and sustaining a cybersecurity operations, which means the level of sophisticated threats would increase. You will have tricky security incidents. So I think this is an opportunity for people to actually see, feel, and experience that what are the challenges which can still come despite implementing the security controls. And I think people who will be from top management in the simulation, they would love to see how security becomes such an of any organization, right? From a shipping objective perspective, you would actually try to do, you will try and move the object from the airport to the Tokyo to a point of origin to Tokyo airport. In round three, which is this round I'm talking about, they will move from the airport to the Tokyo Museum. And here again, you will come across a lot of interesting security incidents, which will be around people, process, and technology, right? And all these choices will be very dynamic because there are no fixed incidents. The game leader is going to change the incidents basis on the choices which you make, which means nothing is predetermined. You will not necessarily see the card number 2, 15, 56, 41, or 82. If you have made different choices, you would actually see different cards on the table, which will make the simulation even more interesting, right? Okay, now again, as a part of the reflection, the game leader is going to get into an and this instructor is not going to really give his comments. The instructor is going to first understand what was the thought of each of the stakeholders. What did the Bank of Tokyo actually thought, which is a sponsor? What was the project manager doing? How did the security guide took control of security incidents? How did the business react? Because or because their asset was getting accessed by somebody who was unauthorized. So all those questions will actually start popping up into their minds. So the game leader is actually going to take feedback from a perspective that what did people thought, how is it going, and what are the challenges which they're actually facing from this particular round. This will also be a good platform to figure out all those improvements which were planned in the beginning of this round, were they successfully implemented? Typically what happens in organizations, we all acknowledge and accept that yes, there is some sort of an issue or a challenge and let's try and fix it. But this platform will give you an opportunity to really validate in a tangible manner that whatever the team had thought. For example, the project manager's KPI was to ensure all the objects they reach the Tokyo Museum on time. The security manager's KPI was to secure and manner. The thought of the Bank of Tokyo was that how are you able to utilize the funds in a most optimal manner so that you don't run out of funds. The thought of all the business stakeholders was to ensure that they get a return of investment without compromising their asset. So those are some, probing questions which will form part of the discussion while the reflection of the third and the final round is happening, right? And the biggest thing to look at the end of this simulation is going to be that were all the objects safe, which means nobody actually disturbed their well-being. Nobody damaged the data, and were they able to reach on time? So all those business KPIs along with security KPIs makes this simulation workshop very, very strong, absolutely relevant, and people in the past who have been participating in our workshop, they have fully appreciated it from a point of view that this is a most condensed form actually participating in a live cybersecurity environment. And people who have been a part of from the top management, they have appreciated because now they look at cybersecurity from a very different perspective. They understand cybersecurity because they have been through this particular life cycle. So they appreciate that why cybersecurity is important and why they should be getting more support from the top management, because they are business enablers and they should be given support from the management so that they're successful in all their endeavors. After this, the game instructor typically puts down a very formal lessons learned from a people perspective, from a process perspective, from a product perspective, which is more technology oriented, and from a partner perspective. Why I'm talking about partner here is because in this digitalized world, most of the organizations have partners and they are their business partner. If you're a telecom company, you would have your vast partners who would give you content. If you are a bank, you would have a lot of partners who would scan the forms, who would store the forms. If you are an oil and gas company, you would have an IT vendor who will come and who will fix your SCADA systems. So apart from the standard people, process, and technology, we've also introduced the partner philosophy, and we embedded that very beautifully in the simulation because they also are very, very important in building sessions which we are doing as a part of the Middle East Roadshow in September 1st week. Thank you very much. Have a great day ahead.